Hey folks, welcome back to another Throw Punch Lunch. I still have some contributors that are out, but they're different ones than were missing the last time, so it's okay. We've had some people come back, and some other people got busy, and with a lot of different things. Got contributors that are out at conventions still, got contributors that just, life happens, and so it's okay. There's no problem. I still have a pretty strong lineup for you today. A really strong lineup for you today. So without further ado, let's get down to it.
Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, time for a little Throat Punch Lunch. Today I just want to talk to you briefly about game theming. Now, if you've watched my videos and you know when I've done videos of Euros, I've mentioned more than once that some games, and a lot of games in that genre, have very replaceable themes. Like, a game about mining could be very well a game about shipping, or a game about collecting asteroids could be about collecting flowers. It really doesn't matter. I mean, yes, the theme might have a draw, it might allude to like really fantastic art in the game or what have you, but ultimately it's very abstract. It's not really there. Now, a lot of times people will say Ameritrash Games, the theming is what contributes or what makes it a Ameritrash game, and I don't disagree with that completely, but I'm going to just show you a few examples here, and I'm going to talk to you about some themes that you would normally associate with a type of game that would be Ameritrash, but maybe just necessarily isn't that type of game. Now, one of the things that I mention a great deal when I talk about theming, and I talk about also just the components, and I talk about just the look of the game, the feel of the game, is what I consider to be the best game of last year, is Blood Rage. Now, Blood Rage is a fantastic game by Eric Lang, but it is a Euro. It is a flat-out Euro. It has fantastic components. The miniatures in this thing are absolutely amazing. The game is wonderful. It is elegant. It is about, being, and it does have some Ameritrash elements, I'll fully admit. I mean, you do have combats. You do have you do go at each other, and you do mostly have to defeat your enemies to gain those points, but it is very much just an area control game that has, some interpersonal conflict additions added. But you can win the game by not fighting at all. You can win the game by purposely losing combats and things like that. And so for that matter, I just don't consider this to be an Ameritrash game, even though, like I said, the theme, the end of the world, is very cool. Now, that being said, there are some themes that lend themselves, you immediately think, oh, it's gotta be a Ameritrash game, like a game about a serial killer killing camp counselors at a camp. This is a fantastic game called Camp Grizzly. It is about you being chased down by basically a crazed serial killer at a camp and hopefully escaping with your lives. And I'd strongly suggest, I did a video of this a long time ago, I'd suggest tracking a copy down and playing it, because it is a lot of fun. Now, you take that exact same theme, and this is another fantastic game that just came out, or it is in the process of coming out very, very soon. I picked this copy up at Gen Con. This is exactly the same theme, but it is a hidden movement game, and it is not technically an Ameritrash game. Still a very, very fun game, but if it isn't an Ameritrash experience. Now then, one more thing I want to talk to you about. What would you say about cannibalism? Would that be a theme that you would associate with Ameritrash games? Totally it would. But here, check this out. Okay, this is a game, I can't show you anything on the inside of this game. If you can track down a copy of this, go for it. This is a game that is a two-player game, very, very good two-player game, that is kind of based on those old school, cannibal Holocaust movies, exploitation movies of the 60s. And it is a lot of fun. The artwork in here is very, very questionable, very, very not for kids, if you will. And this is flat out Ameritrash, and it is a fantastic game, and I've enjoyed the heck out of it. But you take that same theme of cannibalism, and this is by my really good friend Jim. This is Zimby Mojo, and this is a game that just got released, and this is also has cannibalism. You actually consume your minions to gain powers and things like that. But it is decidedly not really Ameritrash either. So theme alone can't lend itself to a game being in the Ameritrash genre. And I do find a lot of fun in these types of games that kind of bridge those gaps and kind of lend themselves to those things, you know. But ultimately, as you get more and more into this hobby, you're going to realize as you play games, or just like kind of like being able to see the mechanisms of the game and seeing where the game is going to take you, what path it's going to take you. You're going to kind of learn which games are more in tune with the different realms, if you will. I mean, I really hate discussing Euros and Ameritrash as being such separate entities, because I really do think you can mix them, and I think you can enjoy them both. So there you go. Like I said, I want to talk to you a little bit about themes. What are some like your best thematic games for both Euros and Ameritrash games? I'd love to hear about those games. I'd love to hear what you think. So until next time, that was me, the Undead Viking, with Throw Punch Lunch. And until next time, you have yourself one amazing day. All right, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, my name is Kodai. Welcome to my brand new segment on Throw Punch Lunch. It's called Jedi Mind Games. And what this segment's going to do is I'm going to be taking a deeper dive into the more competitive Star Wars games such as X-Wing, Imperial Assault, and maybe some others along the way. So I'm going to be going over some strategies, some tips, and maybe some other tidbits I find along the way. So with that, I found a list that I really like running, and let's get to the table and I'll show you how it plays. So the first card I want to talk about on this list is Omega Leader. Now here's Omega Leader's card, and I'll read it to you. So it says, enemy ships that you have locked cannot modify dice when attacking you or defending against your attacks. Now this is an awesome ability in my opinion, because as soon as you target lock someone, they can't use any tokens. They can't use any target locks, they can't use an evade, they can't use a focus token, they can't modify their dice, which is fantastic, and I love that ability because it locks a ship down when attacking or defending. So the other upgrades I have on him is Comm Relay and Juke. So Comm Relay allows you to always have an evade token on you. It stays from round to round. Normally they're washed away. So always having an evade token is a pretty sweet deal. So the last card I want to talk about here is Juke. Now this works in conjunction with Comm Relay. So Juke says, when attacking, if you have an evade token, you may change one of the defender's evade results to a focus result. So now this is special because you're always going to have an evade token with Comm Relay. So in conjunction with his pilot ability, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage in my opinion, because if you let's say you roll 2 hits and the defender normally, let's say they roll 3 dice and they get a evade, a focus, and a blank. So they can't spend that focus. You juke them and you turn it into a focus. Now, they're just taking 2 hits. That's pretty boss in my opinion. All right, moving on to the next ship. The next ship I want to talk about is the Lambda, and it's carrying Emperor Palpatine. That's the only upgrade on there. His ability is very powerful. You get to change one of your die faces to any other face. So for example, I can change a attack die to a crit if I wanted to. Now pay attention to that. That's going to come in handy later when I describe Wampa. So he can also change any evade dice to an evade. That's pretty handy, offensively or defensively. So let's move on to the next ship. So the next ship I want to talk about is Wampa. It's a regular TIE fighter, and it has a special ability. When attacking, you may cancel all dice results. If you cancel a critical result, deal 1 face-down damage card to the defender. Now this is a cool ability, and I love using it. So you use Emperor Palpatine with Wampa, and this is how it's going to go. So you're going to roll 2 dice. And let's say you get one of the worst results, right? So you get a blank and a focus, maybe even a blank, right? So then you use Emperor Palpatine to turn it into a crit. Then you just cancel your dice result using Wampa's ability. And look, you're dealing with a face-down damage card. That goes through shields. That's so good! So here's the Inquisitor. Here's his card. He's Pilot Skill 8, and he has a great stat line. He has an awesome ability where you get to shoot essentially at range 1 at every range. So he can hang out at range 3, getting range 1 shots. So that means he's rolling 3 dice instead of 2. And the opponent does not get an additional bonus green die for when he's evading. So that's a very powerful ability. He can just skirt around the edges outside of their range and just shoot him at range 1. It's pretty sweet. So I have the TIE V1 equipped to the Inquisitor, where this allows him to do a target lock and get an evade token. Now this is a great action economy So you get to do two things in one action, which is great. You always want that in X-Wing. The more actions you can get for free, the better. Another important upgrade card for him is Push the Limit. Now, this allows him to do 2 actions per turn, but at the cost of a stress. That is okay because we'll be most likely doing greens to relieve that stress to do 2 actions the next turn. So what I like to do is for sure grab a target lock because that allows me to get an evade. And then I have one more action, so that really depends. I'll probably use a boost or barrel roll to get in further position. If I'm already in good enough range, I'll just grab a focus token. The last card I want to talk about is Auto Thrusters. This card is great. It allows the Inquisitor to stay at range 3, and for every blank green result he rolls, then he gets to change one of those to an evade, which is very, very helpful. So being at range 3, getting an extra die, having Auto Thrusters, and having the evade token from the title modification, whew, makes him hard to kill at range 3. And that's the list I brought to you guys today. I hope you guys learned a little something. And tune in next time. We're going to be teaching you how I like to fly this list, and especially this guy. It's a little tough. So if you want to find out more about Board Game Essentials, go to youtube.com/BoardGameEssentials. All right, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your lunch, and may the Force be with you.
Ever catch a whiff of something that brings back a memory? Like for me, the smell of pine reminds me of Christmas, or the smell of fresh cut grass in the spring reminds me of playing baseball as a kid, or the smell of lilacs reminds me of my grandmother's air fresh in her bathroom. You see, of all the senses, smell is the one that's most likely to invoke memories. That's why using aromas in board games is a great way to enhance your gameplay experience. And that's what we'll talk about on this installment of Face Up, Center of the Table. I'm here at Yankee Candle, a store that specializes in scented candles and accessories. They have hundreds of uniquely scented candles that range from large tumblers to tea lights to tarts. Finding a scent that matches the theme of the game you're playing is a great way to enhance the experience. Let's say you're playing a game that is themed around Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. Leather is a great scent for that. Or maybe you're playing Dead of Winter and you want to use Winter Glow. Or you can use Sun and Sand if you're playing your newly acquired game of Seafall. In addition to Yankee Candle, there are also companies that make scents specifically made for board games. Adventure Scents sells scented beads, or as they call them, Scent FX orbs. These are aromas for all sorts of themes, ranging from sci-fi to westerns to fantasy to pirates. Also, Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab has a whole line of essential oils that can be used in various themes. They also have some oils that are character-centric, so that each player can have their own scent. These character odors will help bring back memories, such as that time maybe that your group worked together to defeat the Demogorgon, or that time one of your friends that you had an alliance with stabbed you in the back. It has been scientifically proven that smell is the most powerful sense for triggering emotions and memories. Therefore, it makes sense to take advantage of that during your thematic board games. In the next episode, I'll look at yet another way to enhance your board gaming experience through another sense, the one that's tied to smell, taste.
Sunset breeze reminds me of the beach. Autumn gathering, a crisp fall night. Lilac blossoms.
Yes, Mama, I flushed the toilet and sprayed air freshener. So can I have a moon pie?
Hey everyone, it's Mark Zielinski and welcome back to Countercharge. Today we're going to talk about the game Storm of Sigmar. Now, everyone knows I am not an Age of Sigmar fan. As far as a mass battle game goes, it is a train wreck. Ranks and flanks all the way, baby. Play Kings of War, and we will talk about that in an upcoming episode. But Storm of Sigmar shows where Age of Sigmar shines, and that is as a skirmish game. So why don't we go ahead and hit the close cam and check it out.
Now let's go ahead and open up the box. As you can see here, nice box here, and then there's our instructions and everything for doing the models, putting them together, and a nice little booklet in there, and some cards that we're going to take a look at. This is all shrink wrapped right here, and we've got some bases, and of course we've got models. Very nice, and even some decals if you want to go that far. And hey, even some dice. Alright, now these are the cards I mentioned when we were opening the box. They show the different powers of the various units here. And also they have some stunning artwork on the back of each of the cards. So those are just the ones for the Stormcast Eternals. And just wonderful. Now also the book is also fantastic. If you take a look, it's just got a little bit of an introduction, tells you a little bit about the mortal realms there. And then there are 4 different battle plans. And the beauty of this set is this beginning battle plan only uses 4 models. That's very achievable. So when you open up the box, go straight over here, and then you just go ahead and build the models that are required for the various battle plans. See, very nice. And then, of course, there's the rules. In this book, they're 8 pages long, but that's because of the small size of the pages. But they are actually just 4 pages long. Real quick, real easy rules as far as that goes. And then, of course, they want you to go on to the big set and keep playing Age of Sigmar, or you're ready for a battle. They're also putting out some extra sets and things like that so you can expand, which is very cool. And then, of course, they've got some cool models. And on the back, there's your ruler. Now, you may want to paint your models, and actually they are putting out some paint sets that are very specific for this Storm of Sigmar game. And this is the one for the Stormcast Eternals. It has a paintbrush in it and 6 different paints. They also have one for the Chaos Followers. But if you're going to be doing Storm of Sigmar and you want to paint the models up, you can go ahead and check that out. And Sam and Rob have done some really nice videos on showing how to paint up these different types of units, so I'm not going to take the time to do that here. Storm of Sigmar is just like Age of Sigmar, and it is played in 6 different phases. So the first one is the hero phase, where your heroes here can do something special or use their special powers. Then you have the movement phase, where your units obviously can move. Shooting phase, where the units will shoot. Charge phase, where you can roll the dice and move into combat there. And then you have the combat phase, when these 2 opponents are in battle, they'll fight. And then, of course, the battle shock phase, and you see what happens with the result of combat. And as usual, this is a really quick overview of the game, so I really cannot get into the real nitty-gritty details. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a little tour here of Storm of Sigmar. I hope you might check it out. $33, not bad for a game. Of course, online retailers and discounters, I don't have to tell you about that, but $33 is a great value from Games Workshop, and I am so excited that they're putting out games of this quality and starter sets for new players.
Hello again, it's your friend the Board Game Renegade here. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever purchased a game simply because you thought the theme and the gameplay mechanics would complement each other perfectly? Well, I have, and I did it recently. In fact, this year at Gen Con 2016, the #1 game on my list to purchase fit that description very well. And that game is Last Friday. Now I have to admit, I'm not the biggest slasher movie fan, and I'm not the biggest hidden movement game fan, but when I heard that they will be fused together, I was like, whoa, that may really work well. And that is what made me want to get this, and this became the #1 game that I wanted to pick up at Gen Con, simply because of its theme and its gameplay mechanics together. Let me show you a little bit about Last Friday, and then I'll come back with my closing comments. Welcome to Camp Apache. It is said that a man suspected of killing multiple people came to this very location trying to escape the police. He decided to swim the lake to escape them further, but then he drowned, and his body was never discovered. Fast forward to modern day, where 5 typical hipster buddies are hired as counselors to help clean up the place in exchange for a free vacation. And little do they know, a few days before their arrival, an unidentified body was recovered from Lake Apache, and now the body has disappeared from the cemetery. Upon arrival, the counselors are sent on a scavenger hunt to search for the keys of the cabins in which they are staying in. But while searching for the keys, they find some bodies. One of the counselors claims to have seen a shadowy figure moving around in the trees. Now the campers know that they are in danger and they must flee and do everything it takes to survive the night. To survive till morning, the campers must run around Camp Apache using anything they have at their disposal. They can run away, they can listen carefully, they can bury dead bodies, they can use lanterns to light the way, or they can set traps to try to capture the maniac that they know is somewhere in the woods. And although they cannot see the maniac could always see them. And if the counselors find the key to the cabin, they could always seek safety within. But not all of the counselors will survive the night. When day breaks, the counselors gain courage and they find pitchforks and weapons and they go in pursuit of the crazy maniac to try to take him out. Get him! Get him! Kill him! Eventually, one of the counselors corners the maniac and kills him and throws his corpse into the lake. And that counselor is now known as the Predestined One. The counselor's victory celebration is short-lived because when night strikes, the maniac appears from the lake again, seeking revenge. Ah! The maniac is determined to take out the Predestined One before sun sets. And if the Predestined One makes it to morning, the counselors must build up the courage to chase and corner the maniac so that the Predestined One could finally kill him once and for all. Are you sure it's safe to come fishing at Camp Apache? Of course it's safe. You don't believe in those rumors, do you? Well, a little bit. Don't worry, everything will be fine. So, that is the theme of last Friday. Now, have you ever bought a game because you thought that the game and the theme would work well together? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm your friend, the Board Game Renegade.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Canvas segment on Throat Punch Lunch. Today we're focusing on a family right here in North America, the United States to be exact, and they've got a pretty cool story. Let's get to it. The Thatchers live in Kokomo, Indiana, where Mac works at the Subaru plant in Lafayette and Laura is a social worker. Ethan is on his school's swim team, and his younger brother, Evan, is hoping to join the diving team and also plays baseball. The entire family enjoys helping unfortunate families around them, and recently they were able to help a number of different families with the tornadoes that had recently come through their area. Gaming for Mac started in middle school with Dungeons & Dragons, but that led to Blood Bowl, Necromunda, Warhammer, and 40K, and War Machine. But a job, wife, and 2 kids later, painting and miniature games had to take a back seat. Ethan, however, has turned into his gaming buddy. His favorite games include Memoir 44, Galaxy Trucker, and Marvel Legendary. This year at Gen Con, though, the focus was all about miniature gaming. He fell in love with Khador for War Machine and the Butcher's Guild for Guild Ball. Because of Ethan, Mac has been able to return to the hobby that he loves. Sometimes they talk while they paint, and other times they just listen to music and hang out with each other. They've even gotten his younger brother to paint with them from time to time, and, well, they're still working on Mom. So thank you so much, Mac and Ethan, for sharing your story with us and the rest of the watchers here on Throat Punch Lunch. We certainly do appreciate it, and we want to just encourage you to keep going with that hobby that you have together. And hey, Mom, come on, give it a shot. You never know, you might like it, right? Well, hey, for everybody else out there that's watching, remember, just send me an email with this information right here, and I'd love to showcase you on the next Canvas segments. I am looking for as much international flavor as I possibly can get. Of course, I'm going to showcase the people that send me entries, so if that happens to be just a bunch of Americans, fine and dandy. But I would like to showcase from around the world. So you guys that are international, please feel free to give me a buzz. And hey, let's move on.
What's going on? It's Roy Candy from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Roll with the Punches. This week we're going to be continuing our talk about different combat mechanics in games, and this week we're going to be looking at a very deterministic, interesting style of combat, and that is bidding combat. So let's take a look. The combat in Rex is very deterministic. Combat starts in the combat phase when there are two different factions in the same sector. Both players will count out the number of units that they have, so each player knows the resources they have to use. Then they will take a combat dial and bid the number of units they're willing to commit to the combat. They will place their leaders showing which leader they're going to use and if they're using attack and defense cards, and they'll choose those cards to use for the combat. The player will do this secretly and simultaneously at the same time, and then they will reveal what they have chosen. You add the units that you committed to combat to your leader's value, and you also see if your weapon was able to go through your opponent's defense to kill off their leader. Whoever has the most value for combat wins the combat, and all of their opponent's units are eliminated, and all that you committed are destroyed. The combat cards in the game work very much like paper, rock, scissors. You want to try to choose an attack card that'll get through your opponent's defense, and it's hard to tell which is which. There are also traitor cards. If they chose a leader that you have a traitor for, you can automatically win the battle. So trying to choose the correct leader to go against a certain person is very important. Rex, your units are your most important resource, so bidding the right amount and not wasting too many in combat and striking at the right point is very important. The combat is super interesting and super thinky as you're trying to figure out what your opponent's doing, how much they're going to commit, and how much you can commit. This is based off the game Dune I played with my dad as a kid. The theme is different, but the combat and everything has stayed the same. I love how everything works in this game, and it always gives you something to look forward to, and I feel like it's one of the best parts of this system. Epic Kingdoms also uses bidding combat. In this game, you use your resources to determine what you're bidding. Magic is worth 2 and ore is worth 1, and you both use dice to simultaneously secretly select how much resources you're using. The loser's unit is eliminated, the winner spends the resources. Also, the fresh new game Scythe uses bidding combat. There is power that you can gain through various actions in the game, and you use this power in combat in combination with combat cards and add up the strength. Whoever has the highest wins, and if you expel some of your opponent's workers, you'll lose reputations, but taking places at the right time can gain you resources and extra points. Bidding combat is definitely one of my favorite combat mechanisms. I love how sometimes going into combat you can know that you will 100% win the combat, but how much resources do you have to extend to make that happen? And do you have the right combinations of cards and things to make this happen? Sometimes it can be very thinky, and if you have really high analysis paralysis players, it can screw them up a little bit, but it's fun trying to figure out and math out the situation and not spend too much resources. But with games like Rex, it's like, do they have this attack card or this defense card? Like, what should I use? And there's certain powers in the game that can help you like mitigate and figure those things out. Also, the traders adds a whole new aspect to it, where it's like, oh man, I can spend a ton of resources and do all this stuff, but if they add my trader, they're just going to win the battle outright. It adds a lot of excitement and tension to every combat in that game. So make sure to check out different games with bidding combat mechanics. It's definitely one of my favorites. Let me know what combat mechanics you like, and this has been Roy with Roll with the Punches, and we'll see you guys next time.
Throat Punchies, I'm Forrest from Bowers Game Corner, and I'm back again for 3 reasons where I spotlight a game outside the top 1,000 on Board Game Geek that I think you might want to go back and check out. Today I'm very excited to be talking about Nom Nom from Brain Games. This is for 1 to 6 players. Ages 6+, it'll take about 20 minutes to play, and I'm going to tell you why I think you might want to go back and check this one out. The first reason why I love Nom Nom is it is an incredibly simple, streamlined game. This is one of those beautiful games that you can have set up and explain to everyone at the table in under 3 minutes. Yes, under 3 minutes. Honestly, probably under 2 minutes. It's that simple, which is always something that I look for in a game, especially a game that meets my reason number 2. Reason number 2 why I love Om Nom Nom is this is because of what I like to call a chameleon game. This is a game that fits about just any sort of situation. You're looking for a great family game? Look no further. You want a game night filler game? This one will do it for you. A great gateway game? Yeah, check it out. You're looking to play with kids? Yes, I brought this into my classroom and my 4 and 5-year-olds had no problem playing this game. Were they great at it? No, but they slowly started to understand what was going on. My 3-year-old son even loves this game. This is a game that I've yet to see have a bad outing when I bring it to the table. Reason number 3 why I love this game is because just about any player count, you're going to have about the same time length on the game. This game accomplishes that feat by having a simultaneous action phase where everyone is going to reveal their card at the same time. So 1 players versus 6 players, everybody's going to be doing all their stuff at the same time, which means you're going to have about a 20-minute game, regardless of whether you're playing with 6 or whether you're playing with 2, and I always love when a game is able to pull that off. So that is Om Nom Nom from Brain Games, one that I think deserves a spot on your shelf, or deserves you at least checking it out. So that is Om Nom Nom from Brain Games, one that I highly recommend going back to check out if you're in the market for a filler game, a kids game, a family game, a gateway game. It's just an overall great game. If you like looking at my pretty face, then be sure to check out my channel. As always, back to more throat punchy goodness.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Accessorize segment with Throat Punch Lunch. Today we're going to do one more segment of showing you the different modules that come with the Broken Table Hobbies workspace organizer thingamadoogie hopper. Go check them out over at www.brokentablehobbies.com, and then you can also go, if you're in Europe, you can go to hobbyzone.pl, but Broken Table Hobbies does have a pretty good international shipping as well. But you can go check these things out. I'm going to show you 2 of the modules today. There's a paper towel module. Yes, there's a paper towel module, and then a small work in progress module. So let's get down to the table. So that was 2 very practical, very easy to put together modules for your desk organizer, your desk space organizer, and I really like the work in progress kit where you can put your models away and have them protected from a number of different things. The paper towel thing is something you need. You have to have those around. So very cool, very practical stuff. So go check out the rest of the stuff that they have there at Broken Table Hobbies. Cool. Now, next episode, I'm going to be bringing and showing you some things that will take your modeling to the next level in a very simple and easy way. And some stuff that I found over at Happy Sepulchre Model Works, and I think you're going to like it. So hey, until then, see you on the flip side.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jeanette the Meadow Meeple, and this is the Miniature Breakdown. So in this episode, we're doing something a little different. We're talking about the probability of 2d6. So rolling 2 6-sided dice together and what the probability of your result is in comparison to games like War Machine or even board games like Settlers of Catan. And I know This is throw, punch, lunch, but bear with me. So in War Machine, you're going to roll 2d6. You're going to add it to something like your melee stat, and you have to equal or exceed the enemy's defense stat before you hit them. Then you roll the same way with a different stat to do damage. And so it helps to know percentage-wise what your chances are, because in War Machine you have what's called focus. And focus are points that you give out to your models that they can spend in order to add extra dice or to make different or extra attacks. So it comes down to, do I want to boost my attack roll? Do I want to boost my damage roll? Do I want to make extra attacks? You typically only get between 1 and 3 focus, so spending it wisely really helps. And knowing your chances on 2d6 or even 3d6 will help you decide what you're going to do on the fly. So with 2d6, you have 36 combinations on the die rolls. So the number 7 is usually always considered the average roll, and it's because it has a 16.66% chance of being rolled by itself. If you need a 7, you got roughly a 17% chance of rolling it. The reason is because you have 6 combinations of the 36 that can make up a 7. So you got 1 and 6, 2 and 5, 4 and 3, and then the reverse. So 3, 4, 4, 5, and 6, 1. Whereas if you want to roll a 2 or a 12, you only have 1 combination, and that's only a 3% chance. So obviously a 2 is Snake Eyes, and a 12 is Boxcars, or a 6 and 6. With War Machine, everything you do, like I said, you're going to add up the percentages of the number and the numbers above it. So if you needed an 8 to hit, so you take their defense minus your attack value, and you have an 8. So you need to roll 8 on 2d6. Well, if you needed to roll an 8, you have a 42% chance of rolling that, because you're adding the percentages of an 8, 9, 10, 11, and a 12. So the dilemma becomes, well, do I spend focus? That's a pretty low attack chance. Do I spend focus to roll a 3rd die with that roll, which on a 3d6 probability chart, you actually have an 84% chance of rolling that or higher. And so that dramatically increases your attack range, basically. And then you can see where the math gets a little heady, basically, but for the most part, the easiest thing to remember is, if I hit, is an average damage roll going to kill what I'm attacking? Because if that's the case, then you want to spend to roll an extra hit to make sure it happens. Whereas, say for instance, your hits are pretty much guaranteed to happen because the low defense of the model, they probably offset that with a high armor, then you want to make extra attacks as long as their armor is an average, average damage rolls are going to hit them or hurt them. Or if you take a model that has a low defense and a really high armor, it's going to be better to boost that armor roll or the damage roll instead of an attack roll or making multiple attacks, because if you don't do that, then you're going to hit with averages, and then you may not do damage or maybe very little damage, which is an average roll. So there's too much to go into as far as situations with that. Typically, if I just try to make sure I do hits more so, because as long as you can hit, then you don't waste the activation of that model. But obviously, you want to make sure you're doing damage to what you're attacking. Otherwise, it was a moot point, right? So there's plenty of forums out there that you can look up all these charts and such on. But until next time, you can email me at timjeanette@gmail.com. Check out my information below. Keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hi, welcome to Miniature World. Now, a lot of times I get asked how to prime things and so forth and so on, and I point people to different types of cans and stuff like that. But aerosol isn't a safe or cost-effective thing. The best way to prime a lot of times is using an airbrush. Now I know what you're saying, oh my god, now I have to go out and get an airbrush, and how much is that going to cost? Well, believe it or not, you can get it fairly cheap. Airbrushes are not as expensive as you think you are. Now, of course, you're going to want a gravity feed dual action so you can learn how to control it. I got this at Hobby Lobby with a 40% coupon for about 39 bucks. Pretty good, but you need air to use your airbrush, so you're going to need a compressor. So now you're thinking a couple $100. Well, same place, Hobby Lobby. The next day I just went back down with another 40% coupon, and I got myself this SpareMax mini compressor, and it's actually very, very good, and it controls the airflow. So you can either have high pressure or low pressure. And I got this for only about $65. So all in all, at worst, it was $120, and I got myself an entire airbrush kit. So then I was able to do all my priming without any problems, without using aerosols, which is dangerous for the environment. But the most important thing is that in time, instead of having to go out and pay $5 to $7 a can, I now have a kit that I'll always have and be able to use, and it'll have multi-uses. And the best thing to learn how to work with an airbrush is learning how to prime, how to thin your paints properly and stuff like that. That way you're not ruining any models. Thinning down your paints is half the battle, and learning how, well, there's a couple episodes back that you can talk to Kat and email her, and she'll teach you everything that you need to know about how to use an airbrush. But the best part about it is that once you use it, it has multi-uses. Like, for instance, I got these guys all primed up and ready to be painted for a big game that my son and I are going to have. This is from All Quiet on the Martian Front. And I got whooped up pretty good as the Martians last time, so I decided to get a couple of new Martians to take him on. So we're going to get these all painted up. But we did all the priming with them, and it primes just as well as if you sprayed with a primer from a can. Just taking and water down your paints, and you can see all the detail is perfectly there, getting ready to be painted by yours truly. So if you want to learn another option and find a cheaper way to do this, it may be a little costly to start up, but in the long run it'll work down and it won't cost you that much. And not only that, it'd be a lot safer for the environment by not spraying primers out in your yard all the time. And of course, you'll get to finally say that you can use an airbrush and maybe use them on some of the other models that you might have or want to use. Once you get going, you'll find that you'll never stop. Well, that's it for Miniatures World this week. Until next time, I'm Rob Warren, and we'll see you soon. Have a great week, everyone.
And so thank you so much for joining us for this episode 6 of Throat Punch Lunch. It's been a great time so far. I hope that you guys have been enjoying all these episodes because we're having fun making them, and that's what it's all about. Now, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be in a couple of different places. As a matter of fact, we're leaving tomorrow to go to San Angelo, Texas. Z and I are going back to the West Texas Tabletop Convention in San Angelo. So if you're in the area, come by and see us. And then the weekend after that, Tom, myself, and Z are going to be up in Connecticut. So going to have a great time up there as well. Look forward to that. If you're in that area, come by and see us because, you know, we're all about meeting you guys. So without further ado, we'll see you in a couple of weeks on episode 7 of Throat Punch Lunch. Probably be somewhere on the flip side. Adios.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.